Hello everybody and welcome to Parks Bros. It's Drew here, and today I wanted to have a little speculation about what SeaWorld San Diego's 2020 dive coaster will be called. Now, as many of you know, SeaWorld San Diego is getting a brand new dive coaster from B&M for the 2020 season, and this was announced back in January with the name Mako tied to it. But as of the past couple months, it has been heavily rumored that Mako will most likely not be the name because higher-ups believe the ride is too far away from the shark encounter exhibit within the park that is also getting a complete revamping along with the new coaster appearing for the 2020 season. So it was definitely looking to be the year of the shark for 2020 in SeaWorld San Diego. But as of right now, we're not entirely sure that will be the case, and I figured why not bring up some other potential names that I've heard thrown around, as well as heard that some ride operators are talking about, and even some other names that were trademarked by the SeaWorld Entertainment Company. But I'm pretty much going to be judging these names by would it work in the area? Would it fit with the actual coaster? And I'll mainly be talking about these two positions because those usually seem to be the main indicators of why names are chosen. And by what I mean with the name fitting the coaster, and I guess that means more just would it fit that style of ride that will be coming to the park? Like, does the name sound menacing, or does it fit with the style of the ride itself, meaning like the type of train and track that they will be using? And of course, whether it fits in the area or not just depends really on theme and how far away it is from other things that would be themed to the same relative idea. But if we were to put this in perspective with the name Mako, it really wouldn't fit into the area itself. It's right next to Journey to Atlantis, as well as Wild Arctic and Electric Eel, but the shark encounter is so far away from it, it doesn't really tie into a shark theme too well in that area. But the ride could definitely suit the name Mako for its intense speed, since it will be, I believe, the fastest coaster in the park. But moving on from Mako, I wanted to talk about some other potential shark names that I've been heard thrown around. And the first thing that comes to mind is thresher. A thresher shark is actually a Pacific Ocean native shark that uses its tail to whip fish unconscious before eating them, which is actually really cool. And in my mind, I kind of thought of the tail being like the Immelman in a logo that they could implement. But again, this is a shark. It wouldn't fit too well in the area itself, especially being right next to Wild Arctic and Journey to Atlantis. And especially with it being so far away from Shark Encounter. But this again could fit the theme of the ride. It's a little menacing in all honesty. And it uses some unusual elements that the park hasn't seen before to get its point across. Now, the third shark I wanted to bring up was hammerhead. I actually think this is the best suited name for a dive coaster, at least if you had to name it after a certain shark, because obviously the dive trains are quite wide and can resemble a hammerhead shark's head. And hammerhead sharks are known to be some of the most menacing sharks in the ocean, even though they really aren't. They're actually a pack animal in most cases, but you could even say it fits into the theme even more with it being a pack animal because there are so many people per row. But heck, I'm just spitballing here, if anything. Now again, it faces the same problem as every other shark themed name for the 2020 dive coaster. It's not anywhere near Shark Encounter, and it's also right next to Wild Arctic and Journey to Atlantis, and at a stretch, Penguin Encounter. But speaking of penguins, another name I have heard tossed around, particularly from ride operators, is Emperor, after the emperor penguin that is so prominent in our culture mainly. I mean, emperor penguins are the main penguins in Happy Feet, if you can remember that movie, and are the main penguins that you will see characterized when you hear the word penguin. It's like when you think shark, you're thinking great white shark. Oh, and something I forgot to bring up as well, Hammerhead definitely could be the shark ride for SeaWorld San Diego, because all of the SeaWorld parks seem to have a specific shark ride. Like there's Mako at Orlando, and then Great White at San Antonio, which I will actually be able to check out very soon, which I'm excited about. but Hammerhead could be the shark-themed coaster for San Diego. But anyways, moving back to Emperor as a potential name, it is definitely a grandiose name. I mean, it's Emperor. I mean, it's literally ruler. But in all honesty, I don't necessarily like the idea of a dive coaster being named after a penguin. It doesn't really seem to fit too right in my mind. Obviously, if they theme it to an extreme degree, it could work, like a penguin sliding and diving under the waves. That actually sounds pretty cool in my mind, but the theming would definitely have to be kind of over the top to get that point across. But this could potentially fit in the area. I think it would be better if there was a second pathway from where the penguin encounter as well as Wild Arctic is around to the east side, to make sure that you could have a straight pathway from Penguin Encounter and Wild Arctic over to the 2020 dive coaster without having to go by Electric Eel and Journey to Atlantis. But the problem with that is we have heavy rumors about a 2021 launch coaster going in that section of the park, and there's not really going to be a way to put a pathway around that, at least where I'm thinking. But if a pathway was plausible from that side, it definitely would fit into the area. If not, maybe not the best fit per se, but it wouldn't be a bad fit at all. Especially with Wild Arctic's backing actually being right there with the animal exhibits. Now, moving on to another name that we know the SeaWorld Entertainment Organization has under its belt and has for many years, and this is Kraken. Kraken is a floorless coaster at SeaWorld Orlando for a multitude of years, but Kraken could potentially be used for this dive coaster. It would fit definitely the type of ride that it would be tied to, and it would also fit the theme of the area because it would be a mythical creature that would be right next to Journey to Atlantis. And you could definitely have like a mythos area, if anything, like a mini mythos area. Whether that's the best fit for SeaWorld or not, not necessarily, but it wouldn't be a bad fit. Now, I know some people would complain about there being a Kraken East and a Kraken West. I mean, people are still doing that about a Manta East and a Manta West. But because they've done Manta already, it wouldn't surprise me if they do Kraken again, or potentially even Mako, like was originally announced. Because let's be real, most people that know SeaWorld in California are thinking of San Diego, not Orlando, and it's the other way around for the East Coast. And most people that would visit either of those parks wouldn't really know what would be at the adjacent park anyways. But moving on to what I would consider the best fit name for the 2020 dive coaster, and this was recently trademarked by SeaWorld Entertainment, and that is the Abyss. I think this definitely fits the theme of a dive coaster incredibly well, especially if they have like a tunnel element at the bottom of the drop. But the Abyss is totally a complete menacing name, and honestly it fits into the area quite well, because you could say right next to Atlantis there was a giant abyss that was very rarely traveled for certain reasons. But you could even tie in a story with Atlantis from that area of the park and tie it all together, which could be really cool. But the Abyss definitely seems to be the best fitting name for something like the 2020 dive coaster, just because it looks like it's diving into a giant abyss, especially if it has a little tunnel element. And I honestly think this is the best fitting name for the coaster itself. But I'm really interested to see what you guys think the best coaster name would be. I have a poll in the top right now. Make sure to choose your favorite out of the names. I'm really interested to see what you guys think. But of course, we haven't heard anything official from SeaWorld San Diego confirming that Mako is still the name or not. So of course, we'll just have to wait and see until they officially announce. But work is definitely underway for it, and I can't wait to ride it next year, no matter what it's called. And make sure to stay tuned for updates on it until it's open right here, and make sure to subscribe if you have not to check those out. But again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you on the next ride.